Sharp rise in emergency ward fees for non-urgent cases and major public hospital fee reform. Police operation to crack down on traffic-related offenses. And the MTR will allow pets on light rail in the trial scheme. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The government has released details about reform plans for healthcare charges, which are set to see fee adjustments for accident and emergency wards and other medical services. To ease financial burdens on patients with chronic illnesses, the government will introduce a cap on some charges with fee waiver mechanisms. The fee revamp will be implemented in phases over 5 years, starting January 1st, 2026 at the earliest. The latest details about the fee reform were unveiled by Secretary for Health Professor Lo Chong-mao and Tony Ko, Chief Executive of the Hospital Authority, at noon today. Among them, the Accident and Emergency Department will be charged according to 2 tiers depending on the patient's condition. Critical and emergency cases will be treated free of charge, while the rest will be charged $400, more than double the current fee. The cost of general outpatient clinics is set to rise from $50 inclusive of medicine to $150 per visit. Patients will pay an additional $5 per drug prescribed, with no more than 4 weeks' worth of drugs dispensed each time. For specialist outpatient clinics, rates for the first consultation and follow-up session will be $250 and a fee of $20 for each type of drug, with the period of prescription maximized at 4 weeks. As for CT scans, MRI, and pathology tests, they will be charged a maximum of $500, while ultrasound examinations will cost $50. The fees are waived for emergency cases. Increased service fees too at geriatric day hospitals for the elderly and general community nursing services, while psychiatric day hospitals will offer free services. The government will put in place an annual fee cap of $10,000 per patient, excluding self-financed drugs, to help about 70,000 patients with chronic or severe diseases. The government estimates the fee revamp will generate an additional income of $3 billion per year.
This is to provide another protection for all Hong Kong citizens who may or may not be eligible to apply for medical waivers, but we will assure them that under this public subsidization reform, they would not be required to pay an amount that is unaffordable.
Past experience showed that after this kind of fee structures reviews, a certain percentage of patients, in particular the category 4 and 5 patients, they are more inclined to see alternative methods of care. This is very important because this enables us to have more capability to reserve our manpower resources to take care of the patients who really need emergency, accidents, and urgent care.
The government said the fee reviews will be undertaken again in 2028 and 2030. The government also relaxed requirements for people to be part of the medical waiver application system amid the public healthcare service reform. Authorities expect the number of beneficiaries will increase from 300,000 to 1.4 million. Mimo Sengai reports.
Part of the medical service reform will enable more residents to receive subsidies. The government will expand 2 safety nets, including the relaxation of income and asset limits. For families of 2 or more, the threshold is raised from 75% to 100% of median monthly income. For single people, the income limit will be relaxed to 150%. Authorities will also extend the medical waiver period for low-income households from the current 12 months to 18 months. In response to the measures, the Society for Community Organizations said the government should review if there is adequate frontline manpower to handle the extra medical waiver applications. News 9, TVB News.
The MTR announced it will allow dogs and cats to travel with their owners on the light rail during weekends starting in May. In a 2-month trial scheme for Saturdays and Sundays, pet owners will need to put their cats or dogs in pet bags with size restrictions. The longest side of the bag cannot exceed 130 centimeters, and the total height, width, and length cannot exceed 170 centimeters. Passengers with pets can only get on and off the train at the last door of each carriage. Only 1 pet is allowed, and owners will need to buy a monthly pass at a cost of $99. Chair's Lee Yunling, the MTR's chief of operating and metro segment, said the company will see if there will be any unforeseen situations and will assess safety issues. The trial period could potentially be lengthened or expanded to the heavy rail. Police have launched an operation to tackle traffic-related offenses, including jaywalking and speeding. This comes after authorities recorded a rise in fatal traffic accidents in the first quarter of this year. Mu綫新聞 reports.
時間10:21，米數73。
On Tuesday morning, traffic police set roadblocks on Ferry Street near Dundas Street to intercept drivers who were allegedly speeding. Meanwhile, officers were on a nearby bridge to detect any potential speeding. Drivers will receive a fine between $320 and $1,000 based on their speeding level. This pedestrian crossing on Shaogate 1 Road was busy. Meanwhile, two police officers were standing opposite the road, ready to catch jaywalkers. This man was caught by a plainclothes police officer after he was spotted crossing the road diagonally. The police recorded the man's details as he tried to explain himself. Despite his efforts, the officer said he would receive a summons and his fine would be decided by the court, with the highest being $2,000. After being intercepted by the police, this elderly man said he had jaywalked because the green light was too short, which did not provide him enough time to cross the road. Police earlier said that they would conduct a high-profile operation to tackle activities such as speeding, jaywalking, and inattentive driving. News 9, TVB News.
A hot southerly airstream has brought more sweltering weather to the coast of Guangdong. The mercury at multiple districts topped 30 degrees Celsius this afternoon. The temperature in Central reached 28 degrees, while Kunchang, Yunlong, and Taimei-tok reached 30 degrees. The mercury in Shengshui topped 31 degrees. The relative humidity in most areas dropped to about 40%. It is expected to remain hot during the day for the next couple of days before becoming more humid. Saturday is set to see northeasterly winds and a few showers, with the lowest temperature at 16 to 17 degrees. Commerce Minister Wang Wentao met with Apple CEO Tim Cook in Beijing on Monday. During the meeting, they discussed Apple's business development in China, as well as China US economic and trade relations. Wang noted that the Chinese economy has demonstrated strong resilience and vitality, becoming a fertile ground for innovation-driven development. Cook said Apple will continue to increase investment in sectors such as supply chains, research and development, and social responsibility in China, aiming to support the country's high-quality development. Many multinational CEOs were attending the China Development Forum in Beijing Sunday and Monday. Chinese automaker BYD sales last year topped $100 billion, surpassing the sales of Tesla. Aided by the domestic vehicle replacement policy, BYD notched net profits exceeding 40 billion yuan, rising 34% year-on-year. Nearly 80% of BYD's sales last year were related to its automotive businesses. BYD reported it sold about 4.3 million pure electric and hybrid vehicles last year. Nearly 29% of the company's sales were in markets outside Greater China, including Hong Kong and Taiwan last year. BYD anticipates sales of 5 to 6 million vehicles this year. The group has also raised over 43 billion yuan in recent stock financing. This fund will be used to boost R&D investment and expand its sales internationally. And still ahead. To avoid heavy tariffs, Korea's Hyundai Steel will build giant plant in the US. British government tries to find out what went wrong in the Heathrow Airport shutdown. And political turmoil continues in Turkey after arrest of main opposition leader. Welcome back. South Korea's corporate giant Hyundai Steel has announced a significant investment in the United States, establishing a state-of-the-art steel mill that will create more than 1,400 jobs. The nearly $6 billion integrated steel mill will focus on the production of steel plates for the automotive industry. U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to impose reciprocal tariffs on numerous countries on April the 2nd. Tariffs could be avoided if companies move their manufacturing to the U.S. Tracy Furness has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump celebrated a $5.8 billion steel production facility coming to Louisiana with state leaders at the White House on Monday.
Today, we're delighted to report that Hyundai is announcing a major $5.8 billion investment in American manufacturing. In particular, Hyundai will be building a brand new steel plant in Louisiana, which will produce more than 2.7 million metric tons of steel a year, creating more than 1,400 jobs for American steelworkers, and then there'll be major expansion after that. This will be Hyundai's first ever steel mill in the United States, one of the largest companies in the world, by the way, supplying steel for its auto parts and auto plants in Alabama and Georgia, which will soon produce more than 1 million American-made cars every single year.
Hyundai's executive chairman told the president they were proud to build the future together, inviting Trump to visit one of their state-of-the-art manufacturing facilities.
With your leadership, Mr. President, Hyundai Motor Group is proud to be a stronger partner in America's industrial future. I'd like to personally invite you to visit one of our state-of-the-art manufacturing facility and see firsthand our commitment to the United States and our American workers.
The announcement comes as Trump threatens to impose reciprocal tariffs on April 2nd, potentially targeting South Korea, which has a large trade surplus with the United States. Trump said countries can avoid levies if they lower their tariffs or move manufacturing to the U.S. Hyundai Steel is actively pursuing a joint investment initiative with Hyundai Motor Group to ensure stable capital deployment and reinforce the competitiveness of its U.S. business. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Airlines could take legal action against London's Heathrow Airport after last week's sudden shutdown. The UK government have ordered several departments to investigate. David Garrett reports.
The fire has long been extinguished, but there is plenty of heat on Heathrow bosses and the British government. They need to explain what went wrong after claims the day-long shutdown could have been shorter or avoided completely. Firstly, Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander wants to make sure the chaos never happens again.
This was an unprecedented event, and we must learn any and all lessons we can to ensure that it does not reoccur in future. Whilst it is positive that electricity supplies were restored quickly, there will of course be learnings to ensure we avoid such incidents from reoccurring. That is why on Saturday, my right honourable friend, the Energy Secretary, working with Ofgem, commissioned the independent National Energy Systems Operator, NESO, to urgently investigate this incident.
Terrorism police say the cause of the fire is not suspicious. Customers were told not to come to Heathrow on Friday after the blaze shut down Europe's busiest airport for around 18 hours. 200,000 passengers unable to fly on time, 1,300 flights grounded. The chief executive of National Grid says a fire at one substation should not have knocked out the whole airport. Heathrow executives have defended their actions.
Heathrow has asked Ruth Kelly, former Secretary of State for Transport and an independent member of Heathrow's board, to undertake a review of its internal resilience. The Kelly review will analyse the robustness and execution of Heathrow's crisis management plans, the airport's response and how it recovered the operation.
The current Transport Secretary was sitting on the fence when it came to giving her personal endorsement to Heathrow. Alexander says safety is paramount, but she does not have all the information. David Garrett, TVB News.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said protests over the jailing of Istanbul's mayor had become a movement of violence. Daniel Rao reports.
The detention last Wednesday of Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, the main political rival of Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, has triggered the biggest street protest in the country in more than a decade. On Sunday, a court jailed İmamoğlu pending trial on corruption charges that he denies. Imamoglu's main opposition Republican People's Party and its supporters say the charges against him are politically motivated and undemocratic. Turkish President Erdogan's government denies these accusations. Despite a ban imposed on street gatherings in many cities, the mostly peaceful anti-government demonstrations continued for a sixth consecutive night on Monday. Hundreds of thousands of people took part as CHP leader Özgür Özel repeated a call for the nationwide protests to continue. Speaking after a cabinet meeting in Ankara, Turkish President Erdogan said the CHP should stop provoking citizens. He said the main opposition is responsible for injured police officers, the broken windows of shopkeepers, and damaged public property. Erdogan stressed they'll be held accountable for all this politically in parliament and legally by the judiciary. Erdogan said the events of the past few days show the CHP was not fit to run local municipalities, let alone the Turkish nation. Earlier, Turkish Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya said 1,133 people had been detained during 5 days of protests and that 123 police officers had been injured. A CHP delegation met Istanbul's governor to discuss the police crackdown on the protesters. The party's Istanbul head Özgür Çelik said police intervention on Sunday night had been the most violent so far, with many people being hospitalized. Rights groups and European countries have said Imamoglu's arrest marked democratic backsliding. Germany said it made Turkey's pursuit of EU membership, which it has targeted for decades, sound increasingly hollow. Dan Orell, TVB News.
Back locally, sports associations are gradually holding selection trials and technical tests to find athletes to represent Hong Kong at the 15th National Games. The squad comprising non-full-time athletes will receive training from sports associations to bring out their best. Celine Chan tells us more.
These 17 athletes passed the first round of a physical fitness test and were trained out for a spot on the final list as a Hong Kong Dragon Boat National Games representative, which will be determined by the results in the second round of the time trials. Ms. Wang earned herself a place in the team and said the National Games is a once-in-a-lifetime experience because her chances of joining an event of this scale would slim down as her stamina will drop as she ages. Some athletes who joined the selection process belong to the city's representative team, but they still meet the selection criteria for participating in the event as they are not full-time athletes. Mr. Chirk is glad that he made it to the National Games finals, adding that it is rare to compete on his doorstep, given the upcoming National Games will be co-hosted by the Greater Bay Area. The winners will have to undergo training organized by the Hong Kong China Dragon Boat Association, which will be held around 2 to 3 times per week to bring out their A game. Vice Chairman of the Hong Kong China Dragon Boat Association, Simon Wen, expressed his confidence in the selected team, saying that he believes the upcoming training sessions would only focus on team building, as the finalists are of a very high competitive standard. All athletes who secured a spot in the finals will be presented with e-certificates of participation, while the top 3 winners of each sport will be awarded medals. The 15th National Games will be co-hosted by Guangdong, Hong Kong and Macau, and as one of the hosts, Hong Kong's delegation will be exempted from the preliminary rounds and granted direct entry to the finals of the mass participation events. Celine Chan, TVB News.
Major policy directions for the mainland and Hong Kong were discussed at the 2 sessions meetings that recently concluded in Beijing. One of the attendees, Andrew Yao, Hong Kong deputy to the National People's Congress, said on TVB's Straight Talk program that Hong Kong now has a new role under the 15th National 5-Year Plan.
I think we need a mentality change for Hong Kong businessmen. For the next 5-10 years onwards, I think what we need to do is to help the national champion in China, especially the technology company going overseas. For example, if I were 20 years younger, I would go to Abu Dhabi and Qatar and be a distributor for the electric vehicle companies for the mainland. I think for a couple sectors like EV car, solar panel, etc., we have national champion, but also universal national champion already. And I see that for the next couple of 5 years plan, there'll be at least 20 new technology industry. Could be life sciences, DNA sequencing, pharmaceutical manufacturing.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.